Yeah, good morning, friends. Today we will look into the topic that is sole of the foot, right? So coming to the sole of the foot, there are various quadrants in the foot, which sole of the foot, which are being supplied by various nerves, and also there are four layers of muscles, and also important arteries and nerves which will be supplying these muscles. Let us go into that further. The skin of the sole of the foot is very thick and it receives nerve supply from different nerves. You can see the most medial part is being supplied by the saphenous nerve with the root value of L3, L4, and the medial three end of toes are being supplied by the medial plantar nerve with the root value of L4 and L5. And you can see the lateral part, that is lateral one end of toes, being supplied by the lateral plantar nerve, and the lateral most part by the sural nerve. And you can see that calcaneal region is being supplied by the tibial nerve with the root value of S1 and S2. Now the second thing is like about the skin. The skin is thick and also basically hairless. It is firmly bound down to the underlying deep fascia by numerous fibrous septae for firm adherence. It shows a few flexure creases at the sides where the skin have to move freely. That is like while everting the foot or everting the foot or during the plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. There are sweat glands are present in the large numbers over the sole of the foot, and the sensory nerve supply of the skin of the sole of the foot is supplied by the tibial nerve, saphenous nerve, medial and lateral plantar nerves, and also the sural nerve. Coming to the superficial fascia, in the superficial fascia you see the cutaneous nerves and cutaneous arteries. So the cutaneous nerves are nothing but, now you can see the medial calcaneal branch of the tibial nerve here supplying this area, and the medial plantar nerve supplying three end of toes and also the medial side of the sole of the foot, and also the lateral plantar nerve supplying the lateral one end of toes only here you can see here, and the lateral part of the sole of the foot. And you can see the sural or and saphenous nerves. This is the sural nerve on the lateral side and saphenous nerve on the medial side. Coming to the deep fascia, this deep fascia contains the plantar aponeurosis, deep transverse metatarsal ligament, the fibrous flexor sheath, and few septae for attaching to the inner surface of the sole. Coming to the plantar aponeurosis, by definition this is a thickened band of deep fascia in the sole of the foot. It is attached posteriorly to the medial tubercle of the calcaneum, and also anteriorly it divides into, you can see, 5 slips which are going and getting inserted over the 5 toes. On each side, you can see on each side they are attached to the metatarsal bones by the medial and lateral intermuscular septae. Okay, fine, you can see the medial and lateral intermuscular septae. Now let us see about the plantar aponeurosis functions. It is useful in protecting the underlying nerves and vessels. It maintains the longitudinal arches of the foot. And coming to the muscles, which are in 4 layers, that is the first layer called as the superficial layer, and the second, third and fourth layers. So the first layer contains 3 muscles, that is abductor hallucis, the flexor digitorum brevis, and the abductor digiti minima. You can see the abductor hallucis, which is going to the sesamoid bone of the greater toe, and you can see the flexor digitorum brevis here, which is dividing into 4 slips, and now you can see the abductor digiti minima, which is towards the lateral side. Now coming to the second layer, the quadratus, it contains like few muscles, that is the quadratus plantae, or otherwise called as the flexor digitorum accessorius. You can see this one, this is called as the quadratus plantae. Okay, and you can see the lumbrical muscles here, these are the lumbrical muscles, and the tendon of flexor digitorum longus. You can see the tendon of the flexor digitorum longus which is coming here, and also you can see the tendon of flexor hallucis longus which is coming straight away to the greater toe. These are all the muscles which are seen in the second layer of the sole. Now in the second layer we will be seeing 2 tendons, that is the one is the flexor hallucis longus tendon, and the second one is the flexor digitorum longus. See, this is the flexor digitorum longus which is dividing into 4 slips, and you can see a straight tendon which is going to the greater toe called as the flexor hallucis longus. Along with these 2 tendons you also have seen 2 muscles, that is the quadratus plantae, otherwise called as the flexor digitorum accessorius, and the 4 lumbrical muscles. You can see in this picture also, this is the flexor digitorum longus tendon, and this is the flexor hallucis longus tendon, and you can see how they are dividing into slips. At this point you can also see the medial plantar nerve and also the lateral plantar nerve which are coming. And now you can see this is nothing but the quadratus plantae muscle. this whole muscle. Now coming to the first and second layers. The first layer, coming to the first layer, that is the abductor hallucis, it takes its origin from the medial tuberosity of the calcaneum and also the flexor retinaculum. Then it gets inserted onto the base of the proximal phalanx of the greater toe, that is the first toe. And this abductor hallucis is supplied by the medial plantar nerve with a root value of S2 and S3. The important function of this abductor hallucis is it flexes and abducts big toe or the greater toe, and it will also brace the medial longitudinal arch. Coming to the flexor digitorum brevis, the medial tubercle of the calcaneum, it takes its origin from, and while insertion it divides into 4 tendons or 4 slips which gets inserted into the borders of the middle phalanx. And this flexor digitorum brevis is also being supplied by the medial plantar nerve with a root value of S2 and S3. And it is this flexor digitorum brevis plays an important role in flexion of the lateral 4 toes, and also it is useful in bracing the medial and the lateral longitudinal arches. Coming to the third muscle of the first layer called as the abductor ABD, abductor digiti minimi, which takes its origin from the medial and lateral tubercles of the calcaneum, and it is inserted to the base of the proximal phalanx of the fifth toe, that is the last little toe. But please remember, my dear friends, within this superficial layer, this is the only muscle which is supplied by the lateral plantar nerve with a root value of S2, S3 and value of S2 and S3, and this muscle especially assists the flexor digitorum longus in flexing the lateral 4 toes, because see, one single tendon dividing into 4 slips, definitely the strength will be distributed to all the slips wherein they won't have proper strength. So in order to support this flexor digitorum longus, this quadratus plantae will help. Coming to the 4 lumbrical muscles, they take their origin from the tendons of flexor digitorum longus, and they are inserted to the dorsal extensor expansion at the basis of proximal phalanges of lateral 4 toes. So the nerve supplies, the first lumbrical is supplied by the medial plantar nerve, while the remainder is supplied by the lateral plantar nerve. And these lumbricals are useful in the extension of toes at the interphalangeal joints. Now let us move further to the third layer. This contains 3 muscles called as the flexor hallucis brevis. You can see this one. Flexor hallux means always it will go to the greater toe. Please remember that. Hallux means greater toe. So this is the flexor hallucis brevis muscle, and now you can see the adductor hallucis muscle. And the importance of this adductor hallucis is it will have 2 heads. One is nothing but the oblique head, and second one is the transverse head. And the third one is like nothing but the flexor digiti minimi here. This is the flexor digiti minimi brevis. So in this way, the third layer you will be seeing 3 muscles: the flexor hallucis brevis, the adductor hallucis, and the flexor digiti minimi brevis. This is a clear picture showing you this is the oblique head and the transverse head of the adductor hallucis, and you can see the flexor hallucis brevis. Okay, and now you can also see this is the flexor digiti minimi brevis, this muscle. Now coming to the fourth layer, it contains the dorsal interossei muscles, which are 4 in number, the plantar interossei, which are 3 in number, and also the tendon of peroneus longus and the tibialis posterior. So please remember, you can see this one, this is nothing but the abduction and this is the adduction. Fourth layer contains 2 tendons, that is the tendon of tibialis posterior and peroneus longus, and 2 muscles, that is 3 plantar interossei and the 4 dorsal interossei. You can see 3 plantar interossei muscle, 1, 2 and 3. Okay, and also you can see the tendon of this peroneus longus and also the tibialis posterior. Now coming to the origin and insertion of these third and fourth layers, the flexor hallucis brevis takes its origin from the cuboid, the lateral cuneiform, and the tibialis posterior insertion, and then it is inserted to the medial tendon into the medial side of the base of proximal phalanx of the greater toe, while the lateral tendon goes into the lateral side of the base of the proximal phalanx of the greater toe. In this way, this flexor hallucis brevis tendon divides into 2 parts, And this flexor hallucis brevis is supported or supplied by the medial plantar nerve, and it is useful in flexion of the metatarsophalangeal joints of the greater toe, and this is also useful in supporting the longitudinal arch. Coming to the adductor hallucis, the oblique head of the adductor hallucis takes its origin from the second, third, fourth metatarsal bones, while the transverse head, it takes its origin from the plantar ligaments. After its origin, this gets inserted over the lateral side of the base of the proximal phalanx of the greater toe, and this is being supplied by the deep branch of the lateral plantar nerve. And this adductor hallucis is also useful in flexion of the metatarsophalangeal joint of the greater toe, and it holds together the metatarsal bones. The third one is the flexor digiti minimi brevis. This flexor the fifth metatarsal bone and lateral and gets inserted over the lateral side of the base of proximal phalanx of the little toe. This flexor is being supplied by the lateral plantar, all the rest will go to the lateral sides. All these dorsal interossei are supplied by the lateral plantar nerve, and these are useful in the abduction of the toes and also flexes the metatarsophalangeal joints and extends the interphalangeal joints. Coming to the plantar interossei, the inferior surface of the third, fourth and fifth metatarsal bone, and they are inserted to the medial side of the base of proximal phalanges of lateral three toes. And these are being supplied by the lateral plantar nerve, and they are useful again in the adduction of the toes and flexion of the metatarsophalangeal joints and extends the interphalangeal joints. Now coming to the nerves, the medial plantar nerve and the lateral plantar nerve. The medial plantar nerve is the larger of the two terminal branches of the posterior tibial nerve. It enters the foot. You can see here, this is the medial plantar nerve. It enters the foot midway between the medial malleolus and the medial tubercle of the calcaneus. Okay, this is the calcaneum bone. It enters midway between the medial malleolus and the medial tubercle of the calcaneus under the cover of flexor retinaculum. Then it passes forwards deep to the abductor hallucis muscle, wherein it terminates at the base of the metatarsal bones by dividing into three plantar digital arteries. You can see 3 plantar digital arteries. Okay, no, sorry, 3 plantar digital nerves. I'm really sorry to say that. Okay, so coming to the medial plantar nerve. So this medial plantar nerve gives various branches, that is the muscular branches to the abductor hallucis, and also two other muscles, that is the flexor digitorum brevis, flexor hallucis brevis, the first lumbrical muscle. And it also gives cutaneous branches to the plantar cutaneous branches to the skin of the medial 2/3 of the sole of the foot,